Were there warning signs before a Riverview man killed his daughter and her mother? Ronnie Oneal also left his son injured and tried to burn down the family home on Pike Lake Drive. Fox 13's Evan Axelbank is at TGH where the little boy is recovering tonight. First of all, Evan, how is the little boy doing?
Well, Kelly, right now he is expected to recover, at least physically. The big question is why his own father allegedly did this, and we may never have a complete answer to that.
Neighbors heard the horrible moment.
It sounded like, just like, that's why I thought it was like a crash, but I guess it was like a shot from his gun.
At 11:43 last night, deputies say a 911 call came from Kenyatta, Barron, saying she had been shot. Ronnie Oneal could be heard in the background.
Right after the shot, I heard yelling and screaming.
He was apparently screaming Allah Akbar and that he had been attacked by white demons. He said, "She tried to kill me and I just killed her." Deputies also say he killed their 11-year-old daughter and stabbed their 9-year-old son.
Right now, it's just a blow to the whole family. It really is. We don't understand it.
Oneal describes himself on Facebook as a member of the Nation of Islam. His neighbor says he had no idea about his personal life, but did say he had witnessed tense moments between Oneal and Barron.
It was like raining outside and he was yelling at his wife on the shed they had out on the back. He was like up on top of the shelf yelling at his wife, and he was like going crazy.
Following the shooting, deputies say Oneal tried to burn down the house. Deputies needed stun guns to take him into custody. He's shown here in jail, where if deputies have their way, he will remain for a very long time.
She loved her children. She did everything she could. She took good care of those kids. She was the best mom. She was lovable. Just a sweethearted person.
He is certainly facing plenty of charges tonight. One of those charges is going to be attempted first-degree murder. Then, of course, he's going to be facing 2 charges of first-degree murder. And then there's also the charge of arson he faces, Kelly.
And just so tragic. All right. Thank you, Evan Axelbank.
That boy, just 8, when he said his father attacked him after murdering his mom and 9-year-old sister. He bravely faced his father again today. We want to get straight to Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer at the Hillsborough County Courthouse. And Aaron, he testified a short time ago. What did he say?
Well, Matt, first of all, this was just gut-wrenching, heartbreaking. I mean, you can fill in any number of words here to listen to this little boy describe that horrific night that his family was killed and he barely survived. The state had him walk jurors through what he remembers. This little boy's name is also Ronnie, although he now has a different last name, and he testified remotely this morning. His father, Ronnie Oneal III, is accused of brutally murdering his girlfriend, Kenyatta Barron, and his 9-year-old daughter, Ronivia, in Riverview, at the Riverview home back in 2018. Investigators have said he shot Kenyatta and beat her with a shotgun, used a hatchet to stab his daughter repeatedly, and then stabbed his young son before lighting the boy and their house on fire. Little Ronnie was 8 at the time. He's now 11 years old. What you're about to hear is the younger Ronnie detail how what prosecutors described as his father's murderous rampage began that night.
I just saw my dad holding a shotgun and my mom screaming at him.
So you saw your mother and father arguing in the bedroom and your father had a shotgun. What happened next? What did he do?
My mom ran to my sister's room. My mom ran in my sister's room into the closet. And then my dad said, "Come in here and come kill the B-word."
Did you hear any shots from the shotgun before that?
Yes.
How many times?
1.
The little boy goes on to explain how he witnessed his father kill his sister. Meanwhile, Ronnie Oneal, who's acting as his own defense attorney, got the chance to cross-examine his son, and he appeared to be pointing out that his son's comments during testimony today conflicted with what he told detectives and attorneys at the time of the incident and then in the years that have followed between then and today. Now, the judge also commended Ronnie Oneal on how he conducted himself. In court today, he said that that she is going to put on the record, the judge is going to put on the record that Ronnie Oneal seemed to be more than competent to defend himself in court based on how he acted today. And Matt, we didn't know exactly what to expect going into this trial and going into the third day of the trial when these two would be facing off during today's testimony, based on how Ronnie Oneal acted Monday when he shouted at jurors during his opening testimony. But again, the judge commended him on how he acted today. But there's still a lot more here to play out throughout the remainder of today, and we'll have some more later on this evening.
Yeah, this case far from over. Aaron Mesmer live for us at the Hillsborough County Courthouse.
Okay. I'd ask the clerk to please publish the verdict.
Yes, Judge. State of Florida versus Ronnie Oneal III, case number 2018 CF 004019, verdict form, trial division 1. We, the jury, find as follows: as the count 1 of the charge, the defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged. The defendant did actually possess and discharge a firearm causing death. We, the jury, find as follows: as the count 2 of the charge, the defendant is guilty of first-degree murder, premeditated murder, and felony murder. The defendant carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempted to use a weapon. We, the jury, find as follows: the count 3 of the charge, the defendant is guilty of attempted first-degree murder as charged. The defendant carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempted to use a weapon. We, the jury, find as follows: the count 4 of the charge, the defendant is guilty of arson of a dwelling as charged. We, the jury, find as follows: the count 5 of the charge, the defendant is guilty of aggravated child abuse as charged. We, the jury, find as follows: the count 6 of the charge, the defendant is guilty of aggravated child abuse as charged. We, the jury, find as follows: the count 7 of the charge, the defendant is guilty of resisting an officer without violence as charged. So say we all, dated this 21st day of June 2021.
All right, very good. Thank you, members of the jury. So now that you have found the defendant guilty of first-degree murder, that means we will be going into a penalty phase. However, I'm going to give you guys the day off tomorrow. All right? There's some things we need to do as far as to get ready for that phase of the trial, which will begin Wednesday at 9 a.m. I anticipate that we will be concluded by the end of this week, so you don't need to worry about that, but I'm going to give you guys the day off tomorrow. All right? So you can go tend to your personal affairs, do what you need to do, and then we'll see you back here Wednesday at 9 a.m. Since you are still serving as a juror in this case, however, the rules still apply. You can't talk to anyone about this case. You can't do any research about this case. You can't watch, listen to, read any news accounts related to this case. And that will be the rule until I discharge you completely as a juror. All right? So with that, I think the pizza did arrive, so I don't know if you want to grab a slice on your way out the door, but there is pizza back there. And we will see you all on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. All right? Thank you.
All right.
Okay, everyone, have a seat. So, Mr. Oneal, now that you have been found guilty of first-degree murder, we now go into penalty phase. And as you are aware, it gets no more serious for any defendant in any criminal courtroom in this country than what you are facing now. I respect the fact that you chose to represent yourself, and I have to tell you, I think in another lifetime, you would have been an excellent lawyer. I really think that. You speak with great passion. I understood exactly the points you were making. I knew what you were attempting to get across in your opening statement, your cross-examination of the state witnesses, the direct examination of your witnesses, and your closing argument. Ultimately, your arguments were not persuasive to the jury, but nonetheless, I was able to follow exactly what you were trying to accomplish. However, as we move into penalty phase, I'm really going to strongly encourage you to consider allowing counsel to now step in and represent you. This is a much more specialized and rare area of the law that very few practitioners really practice in, as far as truly understanding the aggravating factors the state has to establish And now you would have a burden of proof with regards to the mitigators, whether they're statutory or non-statutory. You've got to come up with proof by greater weight of the evidence that the mitigators actually apply. And you would have to come up with not just applicable statutory mitigators, but any applicable non-statutory mitigators. And I'm quite confident that your standby counsel would have a much better grasp on what those potential non-statutory mitigators would be. So I want you just to think about it overnight. I don't want you to make a decision right now. I want you to give it some serious, serious consideration. All right? Yes, and we're going to reconvene at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we'll discuss it further, and you can tell me then. But I really, really want to strongly advise you to go ahead and let counsel represent you in the penalty phase, because the consequences are so serious.
It was a horrific crime. Ronnie Oneal murdered his girlfriend and daughter and tried to kill his son. But on the night of that tragedy, a guardian angel appeared in the form of a first responder and gave that little boy a second chance at life. Tonight, an incredible story of survival and a path forward through adoption. It's a story you'll only see here on News Channel 8.
Good evening, I'm Keith Cate.
I'm Jennifer Lee. Thank you for joining us. Tonight we introduce you to the little boy who survived that horrific night and is now thriving with adoptive parents who brought him into their home.
News Channel 8's Jeff Patterson joining us now with his exclusive report about little Ronnie and how Ronnie's life has changed for the better.
Keith and Jen, during the trial, we were very careful to protect the identity of young Ronnie. He is a victim who managed to survive a horrific night, but now, with his permission and the permission of his adoptive parents, we are sharing his story and the story of how he came to his new family.
You will see who is the mass murderers.
It was a trial that captivated the Bay Area and the nation.
This whole entire case has been tampered with.
It began March 18th, 2018. Mike Blair with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office got a call to respond to a crime scene in Riverview. Blair has responded to hundreds of calls. This one changed his life.
There was a child being medevaced to Tampa General, but he was not expected to live.
Ronnie Oneal III, accused of killing his girlfriend, daughter, and severely wounding his son Ronnie, insisted on acting as his own attorney. In one heartbreaking moment, he questioned Ronnie in court.
And how did I hurt you?
You stabbed me.
Ronnie III was found guilty of murder. But for Ronnie, now 12, it's important to him that we remember his mother and sister.
She was just a good mom.
Kenyatta Barron was back in school attending HCC, but still had time to play football with him. And Ronnie had his own special way of communicating with his disabled sister, Ronivia.
We did like a lot of things together. She was nice.
In the hospital, Mike Blair visited Ronnie as he recovered.
He kind of held onto my hand and as I left, and he said, "Could you watch a movie with me?"
At that moment, Mike knew he had to speak with his wife.
We were planning to go on a date night that night, and I said, "Hey, instead of doing date night, do you mind if we go watch a movie with this kid?"
Danielle Blair went to the hospital where she and Mike watched a movie with Ronnie.
I had already known that I would want to take Ronnie home with us starting that night.
But it didn't happen overnight. Not until they received one call asking if they knew anyone who could foster Ronnie. That call became their calling.
I was driving by our church when the guardian is asking, "Hey, do you know of somebody who can help us out?"
Danielle Blair had prayed for this moment.
I started praying that God would soften Michael's heart and say, okay, yes, we have a place that Ronnie belongs.
Now Ronnie has a new family and 5 new siblings who've accepted Ronnie into their lives.
One of the best moms and dads. They take care of me.
It's become more than just a new house for Ronnie. It's a home. They even have a family mantra.
As it goes to the family, and it's, "I am safe, I am loved, and I'm part of this family."
Remarkable people. The Blairs have 5 children of their own, and those children actually encourage Corporal Blair to bring Ronnie into their house and into their home, into their lives. Ronnie is now receiving physical therapy for his wounds and mental health care to help him through this process and everything that he has gone through.
What a good-looking family now, though. I think we were all captivated by this story, to say the least. And it was Ronnie's decision to speak, wasn't it? Why now? Why did this young man want to speak out?
Well, he felt he was very limited during the trial of what he could say. He was very much prepared for that, but he didn't have a chance to say how much he loved his mother and how much he loved his sister. That was important to him. And for Mike and Danielle Blair, they say that horrific night was only one brief moment in Ronnie's life. It will always be part of his story, they say, but it doesn't have to define him.
It's a great story. Thank you for sharing it, Jeff. Glad he talked to you, and you can see more.
Thanks for checking out DJ Trendy Nation with the latest news. Please like and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Thank you. Today I will be talking about Lil Ronnie, who was stabbed and almost killed by his father. Father also killed his sister and mother. According to Inside Edition, Ronnie's biological father, Ronnie Oneal III, made headlines earlier this year after he chose to represent himself in court. He was later sentenced to 3 life terms plus 60 years in prison. This is the unlikely story of how one family grew in size and love. When he was 8 years old, Ronnie was in the hospital recovering from stab wounds and burns. He got a visit from Hillsborough County Sheriff Mike Blair, and Ronnie asked Mike to watch a movie. I told him no, I can't. I've got to go back to work, Mike says. But he promised Ronnie he would return. So I called my wife. We were planning to have a date night that night, and I said, instead of date night, do you mind if we go watch a movie with this kid? Mike explained. Danielle Blair, who became Ronnie's mom, says that she'd already known that they wanted to take Ronnie home with them, starting that night. 5 months later, the Blair family grew from 7 to 8 when Mike and Danielle adopted Ronnie. But despite the happy ending, this family met through a tragic situation. Part of little Ronnie's story has already made headlines. His biological father, Ronnie Oneal III, was convicted of killing his son's mother and disabled sister, stabbing his son, and setting their house on fire in 2018. And Mike Blair was one of the officers who responded to the scene that night. Earlier this year, Oneal III chose to represent himself in court, including questioning his son, who testified against him. He was sentenced to 3 life terms plus 60 years in prison. And now, young Ronnie is thriving. He knows he has a story that has been written for him, Mike said. He also knows he doesn't want to be defined by that story. And even with a new caring family, Ronnie says he remembers his biological mother and sister with love. She was nice, pushed me on a swing, made me some good wings, made me all types of food. She was just a good mom. My sister, she couldn't talk, but she, could move her hand. We used to do sign language, Ronnie added. Ronnie is making new memories with his siblings and parents. He loves science and wants to be an actor someday. If you were to ask him what his mantra was, as it comes to family, Mike said, he would say, I am safe. I am loved. I am part of this family. This is such a sad story, but we're happy Lil Ronnie is safe and surrounded by good people. Our prayers goes out to Lil Ronnie. I will be updating you guys as this story continues to develop. So hit that subscribe button for updates and additional news. What are your thoughts on this story? Let me know in the comment section below and hit that subscribe and like button before you go. Thanks for watching.